Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. It is another great day to have a great day, and I have a fabulous guest with me in Erin. But before I introduce you to Erin, I need you to follow this podcast. For those of you that are here, maybe you're already following. Share it with a friend. If you're not already following, follow. It just makes such a big difference. And then you'll know about the awesome things that are coming down the pike, like Erin. So today we have a very special guest with us. Erin Krueger is lots of things. She is a CEO. She is an author. She is a realtor, but she's also a dog mom to Ollie and Lucy. And she's a traveler, loves to go all different places. But the really cool part about her is she's a painter, and not many people can say that. And today she's our guest on Productive Joy. Erin, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun today. So here's what we know to be true is people are kind of funny about what they choose to listen to. So what would you say in like 30 seconds or less to convince people that this episode can't be missed?
Well, I think, one of the things that we all go through is a lot of stuff in our life that bogs us down. Death, divorce, we have a lot of traumatic experiences. And, I have gone through my fair share, just like anybody else. And I think it's about perspective and mindset to get you through it. We can, have a moment and be there in that pity party if we want to, but we can't stay there. And what I love to talk about is how to rise above it, how to look for better days ahead and, create a culture around you that makes you a better person and thereby, having better results in your business and with, the people that you hold near and dear, whether it's your family or the people that you work with every day.
I love it. And so I'm picturing just that sphere of influence, right? Recognizing that you have a lot more influence over your circumstances than you realize and that you're not as stuck as you might feel. And it sounds like you help people get unstuck. But how did you get there? Because I'm sure you had quite the interesting trajectory to get you to the point where you're helping people build the kind of culture they want to be a part of. So tell us about either little Erin or midway Erin, or what got you to this point.
Yeah, my story is really interesting. I grew up on a farm in Pennsylvania, and I had the most amazing parents. They instilled in my sister and I just to do things the right way the first time, integrity, all of those things that, you hope that your children are kind of learning as they grow up. And, I was faced with a really hard tragedy when I was 21. My parents were killed in a car accident. My sister's basketball game, and I was the eldest. Even by 14 months, I became, the controller of the estate. And what are we going to do with the farm animals? And, my mom actually lived a year. My dad died instantly. My mom lived one more year and passed away, and dealing with medical and funerals and all of those things taught me so much at such a young age. And I learned that we can't be part of our circumstances. You have a choice. Every day we have a choice. We can go to the left, we can go to the right, we can stay on the same path. And so I had just decided that, I'm going to be the maker of my future and I'm going to keep moving forward. And I always say, whether the decision is right or wrong, you move forward, you keep moving because it will get you out of where you are right now to something else. And I've really used that as I've navigated through, corporate life, being questioned with, integrity issues with, men that were CEOs of the company. And I was in my young 20s and saying, no, that's not what we're going to do. And standing my ground, to then breaking out on my own and building my own business and really creating a vision of what I wanted for myself. But not only that, the company. And then I have an all-female team. So it's the ladies that are with me and how we really work together and grow together to be the best versions of ourselves.
First of all, I'm so sorry. And that has shaped you, right? Every circumstance shapes us. Yeah. But watching your face light up when you talked about how great your childhood was, and then if people aren't watching, go back and watch the joy on your face when you talk about the experiences that you had because of the tragedy. You're impressive because you took the time to investigate and not get bitter, but instead get better, right? Like to coin phrases, right? Why not? But I am already intrigued with who you are and who you've become because of it. And I feel like I could go in 19 different directions with you, which is really kind of fun. But I think the first place I'd like to go is you figured it out that you couldn't waller in your circumstances. But I'm going to guess that that was where you wanted to be. Like your natural instinct would be, why me? And I can't believe this. And this is terrible. Did somebody teach you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Was it just that beautiful upbringing that you had? Like, how did you figure out that you didn't want to stay in that bad space and you wanted to help people get to the good space?
Yeah, I really think it was my parents, and the upbringing that we had. We had to be critical thinkers on the farm. You had to figure things out, even if my dad wasn't around and there was an animal that needed help or something had to be done. And you have to be able to think quickly on your feet. And I think that, those problem solving skills early on really helped me. I also think that when you have entrepreneurial parents, which I did, they had a family farm, and you see their struggle. You see the highs, you see the lows, the income going high, the income going low, and you have an appreciation and you see that hard work, it's not about doing something and getting really great results. It's about doing something consistently, and then you're going to have the results over time that I really saw. And the one thing I can say about my parents is that, not every day on the farm is a good day. And I've kind of used this in my life now, but it's all about what you make it. And one thing that my dad always said to me, and I remember hearing his heavy footsteps coming down the hallway as I was a young teenager. He would knock on my door, my bedroom door in the morning at 5:30 in the morning and say, "Do you want to help dad today?" He wouldn't say, "Get up, it's time to do work on the farm." He would ask me. Of course, I'm sleepy. I'm a teenager. All my friends are probably sleeping in until 11 a.m. and going to the mall. And here I am, going down to the farm. But what my dad did that was so special is that when we walked into the farm, it was dark, it was cold. He would turn on the lights, he would go down to the radio, and he'd flip on the oldies station and he'd hold out his hand. And we would jitterbug in the barn aisle. And what that taught me was it changed up the momentum, right? You're tired, you're half asleep, it's dark, it's cold. He held out his hand and we started to jitterbug, and the energy changes. He changed the energy of how the workday was going to be. And as a boss now, that's what I strive to do. I was doing some coaching calls with some of my team members earlier this morning, and the market is really volatile right now. And if you are only thinking about the negative things because some of the data points are kind of negative, your clients are going to feel that and they're going to take that on and you're going to throw that to them. But if you say, this is where we are, but this is the solution that I think that we can to kind of pivot and to write the action, it changes the momentum. I really believe that you have to have a positive spin on things and you have to have a positive outlook. We have a saying on our team, you need to have your positive pants on. Right?
I love it.
No negative Nellies, no negative Nathans. You have to have your positive pants on. And some days are dirt and some days are diamonds, but most days are diamonds. And you have to remember that. I don't want my team members, and I have to say this, and I have to remind myself this too, is just when you have a 30-minute bad call, you don't want to ruin all the other minutes of the day. And it is so important to make sure that you surround yourself with good, uplifting, empowering people, because you really are the sum of all those parts, right?
Oh, yeah. And your dad doing that for you without ever saying, this is what I'm doing. But the fact that you recognized that he was shifting the momentum is so huge. That to me is productive joy. That is that we got to do this thing and we're going to be here for the next however many hours it takes to feed the animals and do what we have to do for this farm. And we can have fun doing it, right? I don't think that work and fun have to be mutually exclusive. I feel like they need to be together. Otherwise, people quit. So I would love to hear your definition of productive joy. It's my favorite question to ask, and I feel like you just explained it in such a beautiful way, but what would you add to your description?
I think it's changed as I've grown as a person. And I think that's really important, is that, your outlook as a leader, as a manager, can change on what joy, what success, all of those things mean. For me right now, as I sit here with you, the definition is making the team members that I work with every single day reach their goals and reach heights that they never sought for themselves. Case in point, I have had team members that have come to me years ago that had been hot off of a divorce, 90 pounds, confidence completely crushed.
Hmm.
And by surrounding themselves with people that believe in them, that push them, that coach them, they're now, as I want to say, a boss babe. Like they just take no prisoners. They have confidence. They have some swagger. They're in love now. They have investment properties. They are in control of their future. And so as a boss, I not only look at like what they do performance-wise on the team, but I want to make sure that it's the best version of them, because nothing makes me more proud or to have more joy is to see them reaching their goals now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that personifies productive joy. And I love that you recognize that it's not necessarily for you. It might be for your team, but that brings you joy as well. I know you're finding it. And what I think is amazing about you, Erin, is you not only lived this life and went to this point, but then you decided to write a book so that other people could benefit from the lessons that you've learned, right? So capture the culture. Tell us, if I pick up this book, what do I discover? What happens?
Well, you're obviously going to learn a little bit about my story and kind of, the path that I took. And, I had a background in marketing and advertising, and I was challenged, as I mentioned, very early on with some ethical dilemmas that I had to make a decision in in my early 20s. And I chose to walk out of a job that was six figures in my young 20s because what my boss asked me to do wasn't right. And, I was in a city that I didn't have family in, and I just decided, you know what? At the end of the day, you only have your name, and this is my path, and this is where I want to be, and I'm going to create my own path. And so I walked out of this corporate job, and I decided to go into real estate. And, of course, I went into real estate right when the market was at this high time, and then like the next moment, it was like the recession, right? So woke up really quick from a six-figure salary job. I think my first year in real estate was six figures, and then I went to making $30,000 in the recession, right? And so that really teaches you so much. I mean, you're eating ramen noodle and like clipping every coupon you can just to make it. But I think that those moments really define you, and you learn so much from it, right? And I decided to always bet on myself. And I'm a true believer that knowledge is power. And I really believe that you need to surround yourself with great mentors. It's one of the biggest things that I can say for anybody is just surround yourself with good people. And one of the people that I met early on, and actually through my corporate kind of job, was a gentleman who used to be CEO, CFO, Pillsbury, brought companies public. I mean, he was just a wealth of knowledge, and he was actually in Nashville because his grandchildren were in Nashville. He was retired. And his name was Ed, and he and I would have coffee once a month, and he would challenge me. He would say, Erin, you're so much more than a realtor. You're an entrepreneur. I want you to go to law school or get your MBA. And I said, what? Why? Right? I work for myself. There's not going to be some promotion here. And he goes, no, there will be a promotion. You will be asked to be in rooms that you would never thought about before, right? Opportunities will start to come to you like a magnet. And I respected him so much that I said, what the heck? I took $30,000 at the time, this is years ago, out of my savings account, and I went and got my MBA. And, it taught me a lot. One of the things that it taught me is when I was finishing up my MBA program, the thesis that I was writing was about a company that had never been before. And so what I came up with was a company that healthy vending. At the time, the presidential administration was very focused on healthy eating in schools. And so it was a very timely topic. And so this is before, I think you see healthy vending everywhere now. You didn't see it anywhere then. Right. And, I ended up coming up with this whole idea of these ambient computerized vending machines. And I had a brand, I had a company, I put my money behind it because my professor said, you need to do this. I'm still a realtor, mind you. And I decided to take another chunk of my savings out and believe in myself. And so what I ended up doing was I marched into some private schools. I saw the soft drink, vending machines. I saw the soft drinks name on the scoreboard, right? So much more. And I walk into the decision maker and I give my pitch. And I remember my first school, the decision maker looked at me after I did my pitch and he goes, you remind me of my sister. She could sell ice to an Eskimo. You're in, soft drink machines are out. And at that moment, we got some press. And then other private schools started to call, and then YMCAs. And then I got my first public school contract. And so what ended up happening was there was a lot of grind going on because I was the janitor, the CEO, the salesperson. I was all of those people because I was the only employee at the time.
Yeah.
But here's the funny thing. I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning. I was packing up. I was doing these routes. I would wear a little zip up hoodie and jeans and sneakers and do my route. And then by 9 a.m., I would be done my route. And then I would unzip the hoodie. I would put a blazer on. I'd kick off my sneakers and I put some heels on and I walk into my first real estate appointment and nobody knew. Wow. And I did this for a while. And then I started to hire because I got bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
But I still was always in real estate. And this was during the recession because this helped me get over that hump and really believe in myself.
Yeah.
So then I got a phone call that somebody wanted to buy my company. And so I ended up selling my company. And, a few short years after selling my company, all that energy, all that hustle, all those long nights, in my garage that was the warehouse where my husband would bring me my dinner in and as I'm working, right? All came down to the culmination that a few short years later, I was the number one agent in the state of Tennessee and 14 in the country. And so I parlayed the individual success as an agent there to then build a team because I had so much business that I couldn't handle myself and I needed to create something much bigger than myself.
Yeah.
And how the Erin Krueger team came to be. And now we are the top team in Tennessee and, one of the top in the entire country.
So so first of all, that was a masterclass in believing in yourself and investing in yourself. I think that's the part that we might not all do, right? So the people that are listening are leaders who want to create more productive joy, want to find ways to get fun and action to meet. But what you just helped us remember is that it's one thing to say, I think I can do this. It's something else entirely to invest and say, I'm going to do this, and here's how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to guess that the tenacity and the stick-to-itiveness and all of those pieces that you were doing when you were working both of those full-time careers by yourself, full businesses by yourself, translated into when you gave that up, sold the company and came to just, and I'm putting that in air quotes for those of you that can't see me, real estate, you had more time in your day, right? You knew how to grab those moments. And that started on the farm with your dad, right? Like you get up really early, you grind, and then you go to school. So all of that translates into how you get your team to want to do the same, right? Because you had that instilled in you. Born that way, if you want to say it that way, right? Like you were taught from a very young age, this is how we do business in our house. How do you translate that into your team? How do you get them to have that same I'm here to work drive?
It's interesting because I think that as leaders, you need to be able to lead by example is number one, right? And when you lead by example, but you also pair that with accountability, you pair that with empathy, and you also pair that with honesty and being a humble, vulnerable leader. And this is kind of a makeup of who I am. Like I am not afraid after hiring somebody and giving them their 30-day review to sit across the table from them, have a tear in my eye and say, you have made such an impact on my life. Like I recognize it and I want to reward you. And I think that you deserve a raise after 30 days. Like to be able to be vulnerable and show them like, you know what, you're important, you're making an impact here. And to have those conversations means so much to the person across the table, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's really, really important to, first of all, lead by example. But when you are hiring, it's very important to be able to weed out and figure out the why of the other people across from you. And my book really goes into asking the right questions during the interview because I have a very particular interview process.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes, that helps you kind of figure it out. But then on my book, I have so many questions that you can ask and then the reasoning behind it. So like you're asking this question because this is what you're finding out from it.
Sure.
So that's really super helpful for a lot of managers, CEOs, team leaders out there. But one of the most important things that I figured out early on when I was creating my business, and don't get me wrong, I made a ton of mistakes. Like I remember my first hire, I hired her, she had a pulse, right? I was like, you're hired. And then I see what she's working, and I'm like, you're fired. This is not gonna work out. You're causing me too much stress, right? I had to learn, I had to get myself together. I had to give myself a pep talk and say, get it together. You've got a lot of business, a lot of opportunity. You can't let these clients down. So figure out what you want. So I always tell people, what do you want? What is the vision of the company that you want to create, right? The vision of the people that work in it. What do they look like? What are their roles? How do they treat your clients? What kind of things make them happy? Like what kind of culture are you creating, right? So that is super important. And so when I go to hire somebody, we have a series of tests without them ever knowing that it's actually a test. So if I can break it down for you.
Yeah.
We put a job description out. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a salaried admin position. It could be an agent, which is a 1099 position. It does not matter. It gives the job description of what it is. And it says, send in your resume, your references, and a copy of the disc profile into my director of operations. Now, some people that are listening may know what the disc profile is. Other people may not. It's a personality test. It is free online. There's a Tony Robbins version. There's other versions. But here's the first test. We don't tell you where to get the disc profile. There's not a hyperlink there. Don't email us in and ask where to get it. The first thing is problem solving, right?
Yeah.
So Google it and pull it up and send it in. You would be amazed if we got 50 applicants, only 30 of them would have the disc profile.
Wow.
Following directions and being a problem solver, first test, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't even look at those resumes. If they don't have a disc profile, we don't even look at it.
Yeah.
They're out. They're out.
Mm-mm.
So Sarah then has 30 people. She's my director of operations. She will then read through them. She'll look based on the disc profile, their experience, and maybe she will interview 7 to 10 of them, right? She'll read it down. So she goes and she has these half-an-hour interviews with them, mostly on Zoom. And so she asks them key questions, and then she'll narrow it down to probably about 3, maybe 4 of her favorites that she really wants me to see. And there's kind of this common thread. We have this saying on our team: if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. Okay.
Amen. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's so wishy-washy here.
Yeah. Don't come to me with, I think that she could be good. No, I know that this one could be good. So I want to put her in because my time is really precious.
Sure.
So I want to make sure that if you're putting them in front of me, it's a hell yes. Right. So, but we're still going to do these other tests. So then it comes to me, they meet with me one-on-one. Normally it's in person. And I ask them a lot of culture questions, a lot of different things just to figure out what their why is, why they want to be on the team, what they know about us. I'm very slow in this process to hire because I feel as though if you really want to be a part of what we're doing, you're going to wait for that job. It's like if you are applying for all of these places and then there's or like schools or colleges, and then there's the dream school, you're going to wait it out to figure out if I can get that, right? That opportunity. Same kind of thing. So we take some time in between this, but I interview them and I kind of ask a lot of great questions. But one of the questions that was a test that I learned as I interviewed as a young person and figured out it was a test really quickly. And I was like, oh, this is brilliant. I need to figure out how to implement something, even though they had asked a completely different test. I say to every person who comes in, I say, goals are so important to me. And every year in December, I sit down with my team members and I craft out a plan. I ask them what their personal goals are, the professional goals, and then we put all their goals down in pen, and then we do their pathway in pencil.
Nice.
And so and then you create a way for them to reach those goals. And then in June, you sit down and you evaluate it halfway in, right? You say, how are you doing? Are you hitting them? I did a couple of them, a couple of my team members hit their goal halfway, right? So it's amazing. So then you reevaluate it. Maybe the economy has been down and we have to pivot. And we have to figure out how we can kind of get out of this and how we can still reach our goals, and we strategize together, right? So goals are so important to me. So tonight, send me an email with your goals. It doesn't need to be a thesis. Send me 3 bullet points and let me know what they are. Because if I don't know what your goals are, how am I supposed to help you get there?
Love it.
Now, that's the test. Did you notice that I said, email me tonight?
Yeah.
And the reason why I do this, and I don't repeat it, is that listening is the most important skill that people need to know when you're in sales.
Absolutely.
So I always say that if you're not hearing me, how are you going to hear my clients?
Yeah.
You're going to miss their needs.
Yeah.
And so if you don't pick up on that, so if you don't send me your goals that night, you're off the list.
Yeah. Sure.
That's a test. And it doesn't matter how lovely they are. Sometimes I've gotten it 2 to 3 days later.
Oh gosh.
Sometimes I get it. I don't get it at all. They forget.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they'll email back and they'll say, hey, what's the status?
Well,
So that's my test. And then there's another test. At that point, I whittle it down. Maybe there's 2 people, right, that I really, really like, that I want to kind of go to the next round. The next round is the interview with the team.
mm-hmm.
And the reason why I do this is because I want the culture to be really strong.
Yeah.
I want each one of those team members to be invested in that person. And the reason why is years ago, I had a situation where I didn't do this.
Yeah.
And I had to let somebody go. And immediately somebody came up and goes, I knew she wouldn't last. She didn't work hard like us.
Oh.
And when I thought about that, I said, I've got to stop this.
Yeah.
How can I make each person invested in the other person's success? Because they're all salespeople. They're going to be taking time away from their sales cycle to invest in this person.
Mm-hmm.
They have to like them. They have to be bought in from the very beginning. They have to be part of the company.
Yeah.
They have to be part of the decision. And so what I say to each one of my team members when they interview them, and I say this to the applicant, interview them as much as they're interviewing you.
Yeah.
Ask them anything you want. Ask them what it's like to work for me, the good, bad, and ugly. I want you to know it all. Because if you get hired, we invest in you. We pour into you.
Mm-hmm.
We coach you. Each one of these agents are going to take time away from their sales cycle to pour into you, to let you shadow them, to ask questions. And we want you to be successful. So I tell my team members, there's no peanut gallery conversations after the interview. You ask your questions, you think about it, and then you pick up your phone and you text my director of ops and myself, yes, no, and why.
Nice.
So I then get, if you have a peanut gallery conversation, people's, minds can, this isn't a jury deliberation.
Right.
But like, this is like, what is your gut instinct on this person based upon it? And there have been things where 90% of the people are like, yes, and there's a couple no's. No, they don't come on the team.
Mm-mm.
I need to have a full buy-in because I need the culture to be strong. I need every person to believe in that person. I have people that are 23 to 62 on my team.
Love that.
Lots of different personalities.
Yeah.
Lots of different life experiences. But there's a common thread here.
Yeah.
They're not clones of each other. They are so very different. But when they get together, it's magic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to create. And this method has helped me really figure out who the people are that fit into our culture.
Yeah. Well, and it's beautiful, and it's pretty impressive that you've systematized it enough that you've put it into a book for other people to be able to grab onto and understand and replicate, because that's a true system, right? A system is something that you can do over and over again and get similar results. Not exactly the same, right? Because the culture that you're building on your team is different from somebody who might pick up this book, but it's making sure that there's the right fit. I'm curious, back to the disc for a second, because I believe fully in personality tests and knowing your people. Do you also weigh heavily in on where they fall in that to fill voids on your team, right? Like, so if you have a whole bunch of D's and no C's, then are you looking to fit that piece as well?
Exactly. So that's part of Sarah, my director of ops, is a job when she's getting the references and the resume, she's looking at where they rank. So for instance, as a team lead, earlier in my career, I was a type A personality. Everyone knows what a type A personality is. I just went one way. I was a solo agent. I high touch, everything's so perfect. I'm a perfectionist and all of these things. And I thought, oh my gosh, if I expand, I'm going to have other people touch my clients and get into the mix. And what if they make a mistake? And oh my gosh, right? I had to take a step back, because that's the only way you can grow,
Right,
is through delegation and hiring great people. So my D used to be like off the charts. Okay, like high. Okay. And I was also a really high I, which is a sociable person, and a really high C, which is organization. So it's a really weird dynamic. Now, your DISC profile over the years changes. And so my D is so much lower now, but not low. It's still above mid-level.
Sure.
I'm still the boss. But it's funny because now, like, my I and my C are still a little bit higher. And so going back to like what this means, like the D is like the leader, like the person who's the manager, that kind of person. Okay. The I is somebody who would be a great salesperson. They are out there, they are sociable, they've never met a stranger, right? They can walk into a room and talk to anybody at any time. That's an I.
Yeah.
Then you've got your C, and that is your admin, your executive assistant, the right hand, the accountant, the person who just has everything so organized, knows where every single file is, what happened in 1989, like that kind of, right? Everything is organized. And then you've got S, and this is your stability, like your stable person. That person, my director of ops, is a C and an S. So when I come into the office and I've got big entrepreneurial dreams and I'm like, we need to start a new division. We need to go and do, ads over here. And I'm thinking that got this and this and this. And she's like, okay, all right. Okay. I'll set that meeting up with so-and-so and we'll get that on the schedule. And she's just like, even. She is not like matching my personality and going up. She's like, I got this. I'm going to get all organized. And it's like, I need that. I need somebody who is just like, I got this, right?
Right. Well, and there's power in the diversity of thought, right? So I actually do a personality test that doesn't require a test, but I do it a lot with C-suite executives and groups. And it's, are you a paperclip, magnifying glass, teddy bear, or slinky? It fits with the disc. It's the same concept, right? But that sociable person that has never met a stranger is the slinky. They're fun, right? But they need a paperclip in their life to get anything accomplished. That's that C person, right? So I fully support everything that you're doing and I love it. And it's so cool that you have taken it to next level. Like I said, it's one thing to do it with your team. That's lovely and wonderful. But now you've given people a tool to be able to do this with their team too. I would call that productive joy as well. Right? You have built this beautiful system and you're giving people something that they can not just latch onto, but learn from and grow with. And that all stemmed from your circumstances. And something I'm learning the older I get, the more I realize that every single thing we do from the very first job we ever held, when we're 16 and babysitting I used to babysit for a little girl who had muscular dystrophy, and that little girl taught me more about life than probably anybody ever. So it's those kinds of things that if we allow it to happen, every one of them weaves together to create this beautiful tapestry of who we are. And Erin, you are a beautiful tapestry of who you are. And it is really humbling that I got to spend this time with you because, as you said, time is very valuable. So thank you. Thank you for being here today. And thank you for choosing to make the world a better place by putting what you are and what you have into the universe. It's pretty special. So I have some rapid fire questions for you. Are you excited? I'm excited.
Yeah.
Actually, based on what you said earlier, I think you're going to like my rapid fire question. First questions. What is your definition of fun?
To be honest with you, I love to travel. My husband and I just love to travel. We go to Europe and just new places and seeing things. And my husband is very much like read every single thing about history. And I'm like a scanner. Oh, this is amazing. This is amazing. And then I'm done. So we're a good yin and yang when we travel, but just experiencing new people, places, and things. I just love that.
That's cool. My husband said to me this morning, Christy, we need a vacation. Like, yes, you're right. We do. Like, you just need a minute to just enjoy each other too.
Absolutely.
Okay. How do you know that you're showing up as your authentic self?
That's a great question. I think for me, I know really quickly if it just doesn't feel right, if it's not true to me. In fact, when I started to write the book, we had a completely different title and a completely different thing. And I stopped the publisher and I said, you know what? This is not me.
Mm-hmm.
I know what people call me and ask me every single day. And I know what my, for lack of a better word, genius zone is. Like I love to pour into people. And that is being a culture builder and creating a great team around you. And that's what people call me the most about. So why the heck don't I tell my story and talk about how I do this?
Yeah.
And so it's like knowing yourself enough to say, stop the presses.
Yeah.
This is not me. And I'm going in another direction.
The embrace. I love that. I love that. Perfect. Okay. Here's the question I think you're going to enjoy. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
That's a good one too. I just always remember where I came from and who I am and what I've gone through. And I just always say like, was it as bad as that?
Mm.
Get my positive pants on, kind of keep moving forward.
Those positive pants. I really like that concept. That makes a difference to me. Okay, last question. If people can only hold on to one major thing from all of the brilliant things that you've said, and you've said so many things. I mean, you talked about consistency. You talked about the importance of mentors. You talked about influence. You talked about having your goals in pen and your path in pencil, which I think is really powerful. But of all of the things that you said today, what's the one takeaway that you really want our listeners to have?
Well, I'm going to say two just real quick. Culture is your biggest asset in any company. So that's number one. Number two is a little bit more long-winded. And I would say the difficult days don't define you. What you do with them does. And case in point, right now, my husband and I are building out a farm for us to live on. And the name of the farm is called Willow Creek Farms. And the reason the name is Willow Creek is because in the storms of life, that rigid oak tree will snap and break. But it's the willow that bends all the way down and bounces back stronger than ever before. And it's a metaphor for life. No matter what's thrown at you, you will bounce back stronger if you just keep moving forward.
So well said. Thank you, Erin. Thank you for just choosing to be yourself and to not hide the brilliant, beautiful person that you are under a bushel. You are putting it out into the universe, and I'm really glad that our paths crossed. So thank you for being here today.
For having me.
And listeners, thank you for sticking around, for recognizing that we all need a little more productive joy. We all need people like Erin in our lives to remind us that we do have a lot more influence over our circumstances than we might realize. And with a lot of hard work and consistency, anything's possible. So I don't know what you're taking away today, but I do know that there were tons of nuggets of wisdom for you to grab onto. And as always, I challenge you to take those nuggets of wisdom and use them to figure out a way to turn fun into action.